Welcome to Illusion HorrorCon 2025. You are about to hear a recorded panel discussion featuring game designers, writers, and community members from across the tabletop role-playing space. Please note that the views and opinions expressed during these panels are those of the individual panelists and moderators and do not necessarily reflect the views of Illusion Horror and Con, its organizers, sponsors, or partners. These discussions may include mature themes, critical perspectives, and personal experiences related to tabletop role-playing games, horror, and creative work. Listener discretion is advised. Panel topics are intentionally open to the attendees' interpretation. Our moderator and panelists are encouraged to explore the subject freely, share their own experiences, and engage in thoughtful discussion. Time has also been set aside for audience questions and contributions. This recording is part of the Illusion HorrorCon 2025 Untethered Realities. For more information about the convention, upcoming and past events, please visit our website or join us on Discord. And now, let's begin the panel.
Welcome to the final panel of Illusion Horror and Con. My name is Stephen Wall. And I have with me some guests who are going to talk through Kult Divinity Lost. Very topics centering around the Kult Tarot deck and potentially other topics as well. So let me just go around and have a quick chance to introduce everybody. We'll begin with Perry Clark, psychologist, podcaster, AP performer. Perry, tell us where you can be found and what you're working on right now.
Yeah, well, so just for clarification, I'm not a PhD psychologist. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist with counseling psychology.
Apologies.
So I have my private practice in the San Francisco Bay Area, which is Untangle and Grow Marriage and Family Counseling Incorporated. I have my podcast, which is Untying Knots, Minds and Souls Untethered, which Stephen has been a guest on, and you can find that on most podcast servers. I have been an AP performer over on Symphony Entertainment, and I'm also over on the Old Ways Network. I play in the Silver Screens game, presently going right now is Kingston. And I'll go ahead and say that we just recently recorded a cult game for Old Ways, which should be coming out this month. I don't know the exact dates on that. I'm a character in that. Otherwise, I am also working on a scenario for the Miskatonic Repository and the Black Goat, Year of the Black Goat anthology, which will be coming out this next year. So it'll be in that and trying to enjoy and show the knowledge that I have developed all these years.
Fantastic. Next, we'll go to Jason Fryer, cult author and game designer. Jason, why don't you tell us what you're into at the moment?
I'm Jason Fryer, game designer, writer, and general curmudgeon. Currently, I am working as a lead writer on Hearts of Ravensdale for Son of Oak in their Legend of the Mist. Just also finished up a rewrite of an old ancient scenario that I did for Kult when it was second edition back in the 1990s. So hopefully that will be coming out soon. Also the writer for Beyond Darkness and Madness and other things that I don't really need to go into. Well, there we are. Yeah. But yes, I've been basically writing for the last 20, 30, 40 years. I've lost track, so.
That's all right. A lot of credits to your name then. A lot of places people can find you. Jacqueline Bryk, editor for Kult Divinity Lost. Do you want to tell us what you're working on right now, or are you under NDA?
I would love to. I am not under an NDA. I am Jacqueline Bryk, also known as Jax Romana. I am the English language editor for Kult Divinity Lost, or as it was posted on our little banner, Kult Divinity Lost. Gosh, if we had an editor, I don't know if that would have, happened, but that's okay.
Wow.
I also wrote the scenarios La Cena and the Rocket's Red Glare, as well as the Bound Caged Abandoned chapter in Beyond Darkness and Madness, which, Petter, if you want to put that on the screen again, I feel like that's a running thing. One of my favorite books. I just finished editing the Borderlands book, which I was very excited to work on. We also have a ton of new scenarios coming out shortly, which I'm thrilled. You can also find me working on Changeling the Lost 2nd Edition, Vampire the Requiem 2nd Edition, Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition, Exalted 3rd Edition. I also have a game coming out in February called Bear Witness, which is a solo game based on the 2008 movie Martyrs.
No wonder you're angry. You're busy.
I am. Oh, I'm also an award-winning LARP designer, so
there we go. Too. And quick on our feet. Look out. Gabriel Pellizzaro, Kult author and layout artist. Tell us what you're working on if it's not vaulted and sealed and you're unable to talk about it.
Hello, I'm Gabe the Herald, and I've been working for Humguest in Kult for the past almost 4 years, I think. And I've worked on a lot of the things you are reading from this last Kickstarter, and I don't know if I can say much else than this. Probably can, but won't now. I did not work on the Cultmas scenario for the first year. So, this year. But that's it.
Gabe's also a kind of my conduit into the Kult family there. So it's been great working with him, and he's done a great job helping me kind of come along into my writing, my beginnings of my professional writing career. But
Gabe is a phenomenal conduit. He's very good at meeting people.
Yeah, no, he's good for that. And lastly, we have Petter Nallo with us. And Petter is a Kult author and the creative director of the Kult line for Helmcast. And again, I don't know if there's a dark vault of secrets you're not allowed to open at this point, or if you want to tell us what you're currently working on.
Well, unlike Gabe, I'm not as good at meeting people and being conduits, as you know. You sort of need to chase me a little bit sometimes. But it is because I'm busy working mostly with Kult. Yes, well, we had a Kickstarter, a crowdfunding, some months ago, and we're still finishing that up, and it's going very, very well. I think the content that comes from it and the creations are really good, but we are always trying to, squeeze in more things in the last minutes and add things and rewrite things to improve it. So that is taking up a lot of time right now. So right now it's only focused on that, to sort of finalize the Kickstarters, release all the beta PDFs, and then print the books, and then prepare and dig into the next one.
Excellent.
He's our absent father.
Yeah, yes. I have my children's in the pit, as we call it.
Yes.
Perry
Latchkey
can come
kids.
and console us later.
Yes.
Yeah, Latchkey Kids, the door just happens to be in a deep, dark basement somewhere.
Yes.
I'm Stephen Wall. You can find me under at delapore.media. My imprint is Delapore Media. I've also recently become a contributing author to Kult. I have a scenario coming out in the book Broken Reflections, part of the Kickstarter that Peter mentioned. And it's my job today to wrangle all of these folks and get them talking in the same direction. And that topic happens to be, at least we're going to start with, the Kult Tarot deck. And so I have a few questions about the Kult Tarot deck and about the use of tarot in creative works in general, which is where Perry comes in. And we'll be talking to him a little bit as well here. But for those who specifically, Peter, you work directly on kind of originating the Kult Tarot deck. So what I want to start with here really is where did the idea come from? And could you, for those who aren't familiar with it, explain how it is both similar and different from a traditional tarot deck?
All right, I will keep it short. But first of all, the idea for the tarot deck came from a cult scenario in the 90s. This is not this. This is the new version called Taroticum. Yes, exactly. That is the deck. I can make a spread of the cards here. Well, yeah, exactly. Good product placement. And Taroticum was a scenario I played in the 90s. And it's actually it's the favorite all-time classic cult scenarios. It has some problems, but I still love it. And in the scenario, there is a tarot deck that sort of affects the illusion. And there are descriptions of how the card looks and what suites they are, but it's more as a prop. It's like how you can use it. It is a part of the game, a plot point. But when we made Divinity Lost, we felt like we should make the tarot cards actually, and so you can have them while you're playing. But I also felt that just having the tarot cards as an accessory to the scenario would be. I mean, I wanted it to be more, and I wanted you to be able to use the tarot cards. And they were sort of the idea of how they were created was in a quite dark circumstance, because my mother had a surgery and she was in and it went really bad. So we didn't know if she was going to survive or not. So me and my brother sort of stayed in the hospital, which was a big regional hospital, quite far from where we both lived, and sort of watched over her in case she would sort of die in the middle of the night. But there were long hours of waiting, and I remember walking around this hospital with their like endless corridors and this weird art on the walls. And I had my laptop, and so I started to write the tarot cards rules for how to use them and how to use them in the game, both during play and in preparation of play. So I made sort of the system for the tarot cards, which is based on the old classic system of using tarot cards. But for me, it's very much associated with like these days or nights in that hospital. And she made it, so she's insane, but she's still, or in a good way, but camping on. But the idea is that you, as a game master, can use this during the games and in preparation of games to sort of come in contact with your subconscious and develop stories and characters into a direction which you first hadn't planned, I would say.
All right, excellent. And I mean, in terms of the one thing that I've definitely noticed about this tarot deck, I mean, it doesn't quite mirror the contemporary kind of traditional tarot, in that you do have 5 suits present. There are some cards that you don't find in this deck that you would find in a traditional tarot. I think like knights, queens, pages, things like that. And then the arcana are limited to the archons and the death angels. Do I have that about right in the description? Was there any particular? I'll just follow up by asking: was there any particular reason why you moved away from the strict kind of tarot, the strict theme of a traditional tarot deck, or was that more to do with that original scenario?
Yes, it was to do with the original scenario, but also that in the mythology of Kult, we can say that perhaps the Kult tarot is the original tarot deck that has sort of influenced and been copied into the other ones that we know.
Fair enough. I would like to bring in Perry at this point, and also Jacqueline mentioned that she has some familiarity with this as well. I want to talk about, I want folks on the panel, again, starting with Perry, to talk about how tarot is utilized in creative endeavors. Most people kind of in popular culture know tarot as a divinatory tool. And it even kind of has a history of being a It has a history of being even like a card game, like a trick-taking card game, similar to bridge. But how do we take that and make it into something for creative endeavors?
Well, it's not also just the creative difference. It's also one of the items that I use in therapy as well. It will depend on whether it's a full tarot deck or an oracle deck. And
Okay.
the difference between the two, tarot deck typically has 78 cards, the four suits, and the major arcana.
Mhm.
And the four suits become the minor arcana. An oracle deck can have less or even more cards than that, but they're not going to necessarily be based in this sort of, shall we say, the tried and true language that is associated with the tarot deck. The same thing is also with the Lemon deck as well, which is similar but slightly different sets of cards. What primarily get used, before we talk about the therapy side of it, is using it as a primer for the pump of our imaginations. So this year for Symphony, I was the GM for one of the Sonata episodes, and it was the start of Pride. And so I had used the tarot deck to figure out what my topic was, to give some guidance to my players for what type of characters they wanted to create for it. And then I basically, because I was using two different decks, one of which was the Necronomicon deck, not that's going to show up well here, and a classic tarot deck. And I basically had the chat decide which deck I would pull from. And depending on the imagery that was in that deck, it determined how I shaped the storyline. So whether it was something going on in the environment, something that was going specifically to the players themselves, or even to just something in the environment itself. So I pulled one card was the knight. And so I had a theatrical moment of having this knight appear, and everyone was seeing a very different knight. And how were the players responding to it? So it's setting up and priming that way of what is this sort of twist, this thing that you can bring in, whether it is something supportive, destructive, something that's going to generate that uncomfortableness that we look for in a horror game. The same goes over in what I'm looking at in therapy is how are we priming the pump for people to make decisions and just reflect on themselves, but do in a way that bypasses the critic. And that inner critic that gets in the way of blocking us from saying something, thinking about something, for whatever those reasons are. The tarot, the oracle deck becomes a way to bypass that and get it expressed, or at least start that processing going so that it can be reached.
So in a way, it's kind of like it's an improv tool. It allows you to step into that kind of place of improvisation. And when you talk about kind of our inner critic, it's that part of you that's kind of afraid to speak out in those kind of in those random moments and speak out with a random idea.
Mm-hmm. And additionally, the cards most most cards are image based, and so much of we have to learn logic, we have to learn words. Our emotions and our imagery systems are actually turned on when we are born. So it's a language that gets through faster, and it can contacts with so many things that we see in every single day going through our sensory nervous system.
All right, excellent. And did anybody else want to add thoughts or opinions, experiences with utilizing tarot as a creative tool, as something to help you with either in a game or prior to a game?
I love tarot as both a divinatory tool and a tool for using. A lot of solo games use tarot pulls or tarot spreads as ways of determining outcomes, and I'm a huge fan of that for a lot of reasons that Perry said. The image-based nature of the language of tarot does bypass a certain amount of blocks in our brain, and looking at, for example, a picture of my signifier, the Empress, I can sort of look at that and be in a place with that rather than being like, well, I'm someone who doesn't really plan on having kids, so what does fertility mean to me? And am I really allowed to resonate with this card in this moment? And just kind of being able to see her and go, oh, she's not the queen of heaven, but she is still the refuge of sinners. That I get. And it allows us to sort of exist even temporarily in a space where we can inhabit one of those archetypes on the cards. And I think that is an incredibly useful both as a divinatory tool and as an improv or gaming tool.
Fantastic. Jason, you had something that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I've honestly been using tarot and even your standard playing deck for years because for the tarot, especially the major arcana, all represent core primordial archetypes. And by introducing them, you can immediately be inspired just by playing one card, where your narrative focuses and comes off of like how the Fool. How does your narrative become that almost naive innocence, stepping off of the cliff? How are the players? Is it one of the players? Is it one of the NPCs? Just basically a single draw can actually create a whole narrative thread. Mechanically, I also use a full deck because 1 to 10, you can just a player could just basically pull, 2 cards, add them up together. That's their result, and then you can also draw inspiration from the cards that are there. So if there's a failure and they've drawn 2, the eyes or the hourglass, you can actually take what's on those cards and weave that into your mechanical result.
Okay.
I use the Kult Tarot for basically all of my projects and almost all of my games. I have run games entirely based on the card pulls. There was one specific game, a campaign that we've ran with my group about a character that went back to his childhood home, and we were delving into family memory and repressed memories and rediscovering who his parents were and all that. And for each of the rooms in the house, we pulled a spread to see what he found in there. And spreads for the content of photo albums and spreads for how his childhood friends turned out to be in adulthood. And I love it. I have never thought about it as the inner critic getting blocked, but it does make a lot of sense. And I'll give it some more thought afterwards, but it does seem that it helps me push past the block of uncertainty of thinking whether an idea is bad or good, or if I can even apply that in the game. It just makes me all the more excited to use it. Really.
Well, it definitely fits with the motif. Go on.
I was just going to say, wow, this Kult Tarot deck sounds amazing. It's a shame Dad hasn't got me one for Christmas yet.
We will need
That's okay.
to send you one.
He hasn't. Yeah, he hasn't got me one either. I don't think.
I'm sorry. I
got one from him.
Yeah.
Well, you're the favorite.
Yeah.
He is the favorite. I keep telling him this. He's like, no, Dad doesn't like me more than you.
But he does.
I'm glad that Perry is in this conversation to sort things out later. I just want to say that although you can't get the deck is something you need to purchase for money. All the rules and all the descriptions of all the cards is a free PDF that you can download from cultdivinitylost.com. So
slash tarot, right?
Slash tarot, and it's also in Beyond Darkness and Madness if you want that part printed as an appendix. But it's just free to download and be inspired by. I just want to add, I think the whole thing as a tool of improv and a thing to sort of get pushed by your inner critic. I think they are very valid, and I agree completely. But I also think that a tarot deck has, of course, a mystical dimension to it. I mean, it's seen as a, and I think it's also thematically fits a game like Kult, which has an occult vibe. It would fit less well with like Star Trek or something like that. And I think that for me, although I know that Gabe uses it all the time, I sometimes use it, but I'm mostly while prepping and mostly in downtime between game sessions. And for me, it's more about like finding the truth about something. So I try to really get in a mood mentally where I can sort of see, okay, but what is this about? I don't really know what this is about. And I try to sort of understand the character or the locations that is going to be unveiled in the future. And so for me, I think it's important that it has this mystical aspect, almost ritualistic in a way.
I'm actually going to jump ahead to another question that I had here because Peters has started in discussing it somewhat, and I just kind of want to I want to bring everybody else in to kind of talk about this a little bit. Kult is one of those games. I tend to think of it as it is what my parents thought Dungeons and Dragons was. I don't know really what inspired the original authors to create it, but it sort of feels like along the same line. It feels like as though they looked at, the satanic panic in the 80s and 90s and said, "Oh, we'll show you a game with human sacrifice and devil worship." And so with that in mind, how does having a tarot deck associated with the game add to Kult's mystique? And Petter's definitely given some of an explanation here from his end. But do any of the rest of you feel that we're kind of blurring the lines between occult practice and role play? This is just more of my kind of idle curiosity.
No,
I don't think so.
I know
But
people.
I've had a lot of moments. Sorry, Bryk. I've had a lot of moments where we, in game, we're brainstorming something, and the card we pull just sort of confirmed what we were thinking. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, the favorite gets to speak first.
I'm also kind of a firm no with Jacqueline here, but I definitely want to hear what she has to say.
So here's the thing. I don't believe that occult practice and role-playing are actually different things.
Okay.
And Perry can back me up or not on this, but both are forms of psychodrama. And there's a saying among LARPers is fake people, real magic, right? Like a lot of times LARPs will have fortune teller classes or diviner classes, and a lot of people tend to bring tarot decks or scrying decks to games, and either the cards pulled correspond to what happens, or the player can take the card pull and use it to inform their role play. And in doing so, I mean, that's not magic. Like, I'm also the sort of person who believes that cooking dinner with intent is magic. So I don't think it blurs those lines because there aren't those lines in the first place. Now, if you want to talk about the sort of taboo aspect of it, and like in Dark Dungeons, the Jack Chick Tract, where they talk about Elfstar being sacrificed, that's its own thing. But that actually comes more from a conservative definition and a specific sort of, I want to be disgusted by this thing. I am seeking out this dopamine boost of being disgusted by this thing so that I can feel righteous. Source, I grew up in a far-right household. But, like, that line, I guess, tends to be drawn by people who aren't involved in this and want to find a way to make it into sort of an outgroup.
Oh yeah, I agree with a lot of that. What I would also add into it, especially from the psychological standpoint, is it also gets into the issues of power and control. And if you can, for centuries, the occult, which has existed long before gaming, has had its aspect to permeate all of our societies and cultures worldwide. It is only as we start dealing with the power and control that certain parties like to have, which then uses the us or them or in group or out group, that these methodologies of experiencing our culture, experiencing our lives, experiencing the stories that have built all of our cultures becomes an issue, because it also will disempower them. And since so many of the games we play are also about escaping from the realities of the world we are living in when we are having the difficulties with them, what is the best story that allows us to process what we need? Is it going to be sitting around thinking about fairies are bouncing around and can take us to Neverland? Or is it ones that are going to take us into the bowels of hell or to the heights of heaven and discover it's not as all sitting on a cloud and playing harps as we've been told to believe by the powers that be in the world we have to live in day to day?
And something I want to add to that is I recently read this phenomenal book called Repairing Play by Aaron Trammell. And he talks about this idea that play always requires an element of consent. And while the play we are engaging in with Kult and with a lot of role-playing games does involve that idea of consent and volunteering, this book also argues that torture is a form of play. But the person being tortured is the played, whereas the person doing the torturing is the player. So you have a lot of times, and again, I say this having grown up in a far-right household, a lot of times the people who are like, the occult is terrible, Satan is everywhere, this is a gateway to this, this, and this, are also the sort of people who go, well, yeah, if you had a terrorist locked up for 24 hours, you should torture him to get as much information out of him as possible. Because that makes them feel better in much the same way that something like this might make us feel better, because that person is not real to them. That person is an element of their psychodrama and cannot opt out of that. I had a point. I think I made it. I'm not sure I did.
I think you reached it. I definitely think that you've definitely brought forward a couple of interesting ideas. I mean, they may be outside the realm of this panel, but I definitely, I'm surprised to see I'm kind of a cynic compared to a lot of folks here.
I'll finish so that you can go ahead. But something that I'm very interested in is sort of this way where we delineate different things, like, well, kink isn't gaming, isn't the practice of magic, isn't therapy, isn't. And yes, in a lot of ways, they're not. They're overlapping Venn diagrams, but the way we sort of compartmentalize information and techniques, and in the recent years, we've started uncompartmentalizing them, which is honestly awesome, because I really think I'm a huge fan of a multidisciplinary approach, and I really think that people should be sharing strategies and tactics across disciplines. But people who are interested in having power over others benefit most when knowledge is compartmentalized and we think of things as different and not related.
Excellent. And Peter, you had a thought you wanted to add.
Yeah, I will add two things. I think the first thing I wanted to add was just to defend the original authors of Kult, Mikael and Gunilla, who wrote it in the late 80s and early 90s. It was released in 91 in Sweden. Mm-hmm. Satanic Panic hadn't really come to Sweden back then. It was still a fear of heavy metal and things like that, of course.
Okay.
And according to them, at least, they didn't mean to create this sort of shock. That Cult created a shock in Swedish society, and there was like an uproar. But they had just,
and I'll add to that in a minute.
yeah. They had read a lot of Clive Barker and watched a lot of sort of more modern horror movies. And the idea was that they got ordered to make a game that was more like for a teenage audience, more modern, urban. And I didn't think they would expect sort of the backlash that came from it. So they dived into extreme forms of horror. And of course, they also practiced sort of some kind of magic. So their magic system was kind of ritualistic, and you could sort of see some parts of it. And then I just want to add just a small snippet. And I think that I agree with Bryk in many things here, because I don't think that things are as separated as we think, because I think that in many ways a role-playing session is a ritual. We don't frame it as a ritual. Sometimes we do. We light candles. We have this sort of specific music. We try to build atmosphere, and that perhaps feels more ritualistic then. But I think it is a ritual. We often have the same practice, how to behave during the ritual and things like that. So I think that it's sort of magic and ritualistic just entwined in everyday life. But many things are rituals in our lives.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's really interesting. And it's actually, I mean, for my part, it's really interesting to dive into some of the history and context of Kult. And I think Jason was going to indulge me a little bit more with a bit there. So if we could go to Jason, and then I think Bryk had something to add as well.
I came into Kult on 2nd edition, and that was an interesting time during the 90s when a lot of the games wanted to be highly transgressive. They were supposed to actually shock. I mean, we had Hole, we had even Vampire the Masquerade. All of these different writings were trying to be more punk and basically shock people. But the whole thing was, again, it was all theater. We were writing actual rituals for the magic books, but they were about
those magic books.
And they were about as real as the Necronomicon.
Well, the thing is, I was a member of the audience back then. This is why it's kind of interesting to me. I was one of those kids that absolutely reveled in the shock value available. You were selling to me with what you were doing, because where, on the one hand, I think there's the idea that there's power holding over, what's transgressive and what's not. But I think for myself and friends at the time through the 90s, there was a power in being transgressive. I think that's what we really enjoyed. We really enjoyed we didn't revel in the fact that we were disgusted. We reveled in the fact that we could disgust people.
In many ways, I think that the games of the 90s followed the same kind of transgressive progression as the splatterpunks, because the splatterpunks in the 70s and 80s were responding to kind of the ghosts and the goblins of the 50s and 60s and 70s. Mm-hmm. In that time, ghosts just didn't mean shit. I mean, we were facing nuclear annihilation, AIDS, poverty. It was, people keep on saying that the 80s and 90s are so nostalgic. Yeah, well, you didn't live through them. And our games were basically trying to be as transgressive and try to respond to it. In many cases, very poorly. But I think that's where all of it kind of pulls from. But to give you an idea, going back to the tarot, literally as close to Kult to the tarot for me back then was literally doing readings on the street to make him enough money so I could buy my next Kult supplement. So.
I love walking down memory lane with this kind of stuff. I'd love to do a panel about this whole thing in the future. I do want to give Bryk the last word on this topic, and then I'm going to switch up topics a little bit. We're going to move back to the tarot a little bit.
Number one, I'm so glad you worked on those magic books, because I was introduced to Kult by a guy who did demolitions for the army and was telling me about how he used to try to do the rituals in the gold and silver books. There is a whole story about a jet pilot who pissed him off, and I can neither confirm or deny that he requisitioned enough fuel to make a giant pentagram and lit it on fire that would then be blown out by the jet's back burner. So anyway, there is a concept in sociology called the magic circle. And it does take a lot from Western occult practice, but the idea is that when we enter into a ritual game space, essentially we are all agreeing to the behaviors and the ambiance inside the magic circle. And we can step outside the magic circle, for example, to use the restroom, or to advocate. Well, advocating for ourselves is no longer considered outside the magic circle in a lot of ways, which is awesome. But we can step outside the magic circle in order to, get food or go to the bathroom or take a phone call. But when we're at the table and we're actively engaging in the game, we are part of the magic circle. And I think that is a very cool concept that I use in a lot of my own writing. And it's just kind of a fun thing I like bringing up when we discuss like what sort of makes a session a session.
You're definitely speaking my language there as an academic now, because that kind of feels like Victor Turner and Irving Goffman a little bit, and their kind of particular process, ritual process, and all of that. If we are good, I'd like to get back to the tarot a little bit, and I'd actually like to revisit something that Gabe mentioned earlier. And I'd like to get everybody's input on this at this point. So we've talked about the fact that the rules as they're set for the Kult Tarot are about kind of drawing things ahead of time, having preparations for games. They even kind of talk about kind of creating a meditative space for yourself to really kind of get to that place where your creativity is unlocked through looking at the cards. What I'm curious about is, could we do something similar at the gaming table? What are the benefits and restrictions there? How do we change things up? Doing that process kind of in media res, doing that at the gaming table, as opposed to doing it off screen ahead of time. How might picking a card change things in a game, and how might that work in real time? How can we kind of use that in the spur of the moment? I'd love everybody to kind of chime in on that. I think Gabe has a little bit. I see Perry's ready to go. And of course, I know that you were mentioning that you did some work with Symphony Entertainment kind of in the moment. Tell us how that worked versus planning ahead of time, Perry, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, let Gabe first, and then I'll come in.
Oh, okay, sure.
Okay. Early in my game mastering journey, I used to overburden myself with game preparations. So I would run 2 sessions of 5 to 6 hours, 2 days of the week, every weekend. And for the rest of the week, I would spend a lot of time thinking of the game. And I don't remember when, but there was a moment that I decided that I wanted to improvise more and prepare less, just so it didn't feel like a job to me, running the game. And from that moment up until today, and hopefully for the future, I just decided to not prepare and use whatever I can to help me improvise. And I do feel like everyone benefits from that. And to riff off of Bryk's magic circle thing, in the past I felt like I never left the magic circle, because every time was game time for me. I couldn't step out of it. But now I feel this separation a bit more. And well, to talk a little about what changes in the game. I feel like there's a lot of freedom for me as a game master to do what I can, what I want to do in the game. And the tarot or any other improvisation aid helps me with that. I don't think it adds a lot of burden, and I don't know. I just like it. I use it a bit differently than written. A lot of people use the proposed structure, but I would just advise everyone to try to ask the tarot questions and let it answer. So instead of laying out um, in the what's this character's greatest strength, ask the player something and use the deck to complement the answer. And so it will feel more fluid and in the game, in the world, in the setting. I guess that's it. Got a bit rambly, but wasn't prepared to answer just now.
That's all right. I think that you provided us kind of a good foundation there. I'm interested to hear also what Perry has to say, if there's anything to kind of build on that.
Oh yeah. Before I talk about what happened with Symphony, I want to talk about something that is related to this that I think also comes up, and this is also psychological, is dealing with anxiety. And especially for game masters, especially new game masters, there's a difference as they are learning table management and running the table and the game itself. That skill of where are they needing to prep, and they're feeling anxious because they need to have everything in line and they need to know what's happening next, versus the improvisation of dealing with something that is coming up or yes anding there. That takes time to develop that skill to do the yes anding well. And I think that, again, creates a lot of anxiety. People feel hesitant to do this until they have developed that improving yes anding skill. Now, whether that means they need to take improv classes or they need to practice in more of the standpoint of draw and see what happens, but that ability to develop the yes and improv is probably going to be the biggest thing that's going to be helpful for using the tarot and bring it into any type of scenario you want to do when gaming. Another way to look at this too is, what's the difference between a plotter and a pantser?
You'll have to define those for us.
So, plotter, and then this is more something that's come up in writing, but a plotter will know exactly where every point of the story is going, versus a pantser who has no idea where anything's going, and they're just going to see where it takes them. Some have said this is the issue with the the throne of ice and fire and so forth. I myself am both a plotter and a pantser. I know what my main points need to be. Everything that connects them, though, I have no idea. And that's where I pant. And that's where something like the tarot is what I would use. And that's kind of what I did with the Symphony game. I had already asked the cards to give me an idea of, I already decided that it was going to be a concert.
Okay.
I asked the tarot to give me an idea about how to structure this concert towards the horror. The final card that came up was in this case, the Nine of Torches. That's what told me how I was going to end this game. And that became one of my plot points. What was going on in between those plot points, that's where I was drawing the cards from the crowd to determine what I was going to throw out to make that link.
So the links are still between point A and point B, but just you may not go a straight line to get there.
Precisely. I might be going all over the place. And that also becomes from the practice I've now done with improving the number of games I have. And I'll be frank, also in therapy, I have no idea what my client is about to bring in to our session, and I have to figure out how to roll with that.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I was just writing down here kind of as maybe a follow-up question. How do you keep the game on track if you're using random elements? But I appreciate you kind of bringing that in. And I think Jacqueline has something to add there.
Oh man. Okay, so I have one really big feeling about games and being on. Actually, these are two separate big feelings, but we're going to start with one and go to the other. The first big feeling is I have never been able to write a novel. I can write a short story. I can write 100,000 words of character sheets. I can write an entire cult book. But yes, Dad, I'm looking at you. Dad. Let me write more Kult, Dad. I'm good at stuff. Anyway, but the issue I see a lot of people is, well, I have to get my characters from A, B to C, and it has to be in this specific amount of time. If you want to do that, write a novel. You will be much better at writing novels than I am. I describe my writing style as setting up dominoes for other people to knock down. And a lot of people get very, very freaked out by this because they're like, oh my God, what if I don't know what happens next? What if the characters go somewhere completely different? Okay, fine. Follow them.
Mm-hmm.
They're going, if you don't know what to do and you're not one of those people who feels comfortable taking a 5-minute break to go, hey, let me process this, go, okay, well, you've decided to go away from the thing I had planned, and now you're doing this completely different thing. Tell me what the room you're in looks like. Tell me what the air smells like. Tell me what you're looking for. Let them give you the answers as to what they're looking for and build around that. And that brings me to my second point. A lot of people, there's this pervasive idea that the GM is somehow both the boss and the servant at the table. The GM is just another player. They have different responsibilities. They're the person who is playing for the world as opposed to playing for a specific person. And a lot of people forget that. And I'm actually wearing a shirt right now that says Matthew Mercer isn't real because I loathe Critical Role with all of my heart. And any critters in the chat can fight me. But this idea that you have to be this brilliant BFA actor with, Amazon money to run a game, to tell stories with your friends, to even practice telling stories with your friends is something I hate. It's another idea of hierarchy. It's this idea that you have to find the special person who can run the game. And that's absurd. And these sort of build into each other, right? Because once you realize that you don't have to be the special person to run the game, you can start asking your players' input. You can start asking for your players' opinion on things. You don't have to constantly be like, I have to hide everything from my players. Or as Gabe said, this is a second job because I can't step out of the magic circle.
So actually, this dovetails very nicely with one of the questions we've received from the audience. And sorry, I just knocked a bunch of stuff over while I was trying to get access to those questions. So I hope I didn't make too much noise. But anyway, let's see. And we can maybe start with Bryk here, but maybe we can move on to others as well if you have thoughts. Shelley writes, we need more GMs, more and more. Are we doing anything to foster new cult GMs in our communities? And I'm thinking about kind of the Cult Tarot as a tool to foster GMs, as a way of kind of bringing in. I mean, again, Bryk brings this point in that you can utilize the Cult Tarot to go in whatever direction you need to go. We've also got Perry's take that you can set up your plot points and use the tarot as a way to facilitate the in-between. Do either the two of you or anybody else have any other thoughts vis-a-vis the Cult Tarot and potentially bringing in more GMs? I mean, is this,
I know Gabe is going to have thoughts on this a lot because Gabe is our wonderful and phenomenal community manager, and I'm glad we have him. But there's this running joke in the queer women's big ecosystem community is there's not a top shortage. It's just you're not asking people to top you.
And they won't play this. They won't play this stream in France. It's criminal.
I know, but you can't. It's not that we have a GM shortage. It's that people have these expectations for their GMs. And they're not actively working with their GMs to be like, yes, I want you to tell the story that you want to tell. It's, no, if you're GMing this game, you have to tell it this, this, and this. No. If there isn't a top shortage, you're just not letting people top you because you have this very specific idea in your head of what that looks like. And you're not communicating it. And we need to be better about that.
Yeah. But again, it comes back to anxiety, shame, the willingness to try and do these things. And just for those watching, I did just try to pull a spread to describe asking for the dynamics of today. This came up as growth. I'm not sure if the card is going to show up well.
Oh, she's
But
kind
it's
of
from the
spitting in and out there.
Necronomicon.
Can you read the text for us?
Yeah, give me a second.
No worries. Or no, can you just read what's on the card? I couldn't see the card.
Oh,
and
growth.
Growth. Okay.
And I think
so the card is actually growth. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's inspiring growth in all of these things. And finding this GM top issue is about dealing with that anxiety of what does it mean to make a mistake and not being shamed about it. To be able to take the risk and not feel like I didn't do it perfectly. And there's that classic saying, perfect is the enemy of good.
I can even relate to this as someone who's an experienced GM. I mean, I would say that, my sessions don't always go off perfectly. In fact, the first time I bring an idea from the paper to the table, I often fall flat on my face. And I just I do my best Axl Rose impression. I just say to myself, "All right, that sucked," and then we just move on as best we can. Because you fall on your face a lot trying this out.
But what if instead of "all right, that sucked," if the table went, "Okay, where do we go now?"
Okay.
To reference another Axl Rose thing, where do we go now?
Yes.
But
Sweet child of mine. Thank you. Yeah.
There you go. But we talk a lot about community and being a tabletop community and being together and being here for each other, but we're so afraid of, and granted, I'm specifically talking about storytelling mistakes here. I'm not talking about interpersonal mistakes or anything. That's a whole different topic. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure Perry and I could go forever on that. But what I'm specifically talking about is mistakes in improving, mistakes in storytelling. We don't really provide sort of a cushion for people to experiment with that, right? Because if you come to the table as a GM, it is expected that you are experienced and prepared, and that's not a great way to foster more GMs.
I have a little thing to add. I think that it doesn't have anything to do with the tarot. Actually, I think that if I was a new GM and someone said, like, yes, you're going to sit in front of this group of players and you're going to use a tarot to just improvise, I would feel quite a lot of panic because it feels like a super big responsibility. I think because there is, the whole idea of like finding more GMs for Kult is something I have thought quite a lot about, because Kult is a bit of a tougher game to GM, I would say, than many others. And it comes down to both mechanics, that as a GM in Kult, you are deciding all the roles. Like when a player is going to roll, you are the one that says that. The scenarios are often quite open. It deals with heavy subjects. I mean, there are some good things as well. It's set in our world, so you have a lot of things to draw on from there. But it's a, and I also think that the rule book is like 400 pages. So you sort of give that to a new person, say like, hey, read this, let's play. And it's sort of a daunting task. We made a scenario called the Midnight Train, which is just read it and follow it, almost like a sort of choose your own adventure scenario. And the idea is like, take this, it is about 30 minutes of play and play it with some friends, just as a first step. And I know some people have tried it and liked it, but I still think to sort of find the whole, easing people into GMing is a hard nut to crack. And I think that I would love for suggestions from people how to do that in a good way. I guess just be an inspiring GM to players and make players feel like I want to tell a story, I want to game master. But yeah, it's hard. I think it's tough.
Jason has a thought, and I want to hear from him real quick.
I'm just kind of pulling this out of my ass, but one of the current trends is GM-less games. If you, with a simple tweaking of the tarot deck rules, you could create a GM-less cult session and just basically have it going around in the entire group telling the stories. And I've played several GM-less games, and they are some of the most intense experiences I've gone through in role playing. So maybe, and by the end of it, maybe somebody will go, you know what, I'm going to pick up that 400 rule book and basically start running their own campaign.
What I would add to that, because I actually had someone say this years ago, you have to know everything in the book. That is not the case.
No.
It is, you have to know how to find the information you need in the book. That is actually where the skill is. Now, just, and to be frank, if you're dealing with somebody who is neurodiverse and they happen to be a rules lawyer, they happen to be someone who will take a book and eat it up completely and know where everything is, yeah, that's daunting to try and deal with somebody who's dealing with that and feel like you have to live up to that expectation. Again, that's sense of perfection. But again, it is not that you need to know the book cover to cover. You need to know how to find information. That is the actual skill. Indexes are your friend. And I will tell you that now to every publisher. Put a fucking index in those books. Indexes are your friend. Learn how to use them.
No, I agree. I just wanted to add that just to sort of plug something, I guess. One of the things we've also done is we have released, or it will be released, a sort of choose your own adventure scenario called like Deep Waters. And the idea behind that is also that it uses the cult mechanics with the dice rolls and everything, and tries to explain like, okay, now you're going to roll this, hopefully as a way to also introduce the system as well as some part of the setting. So I think that is but still, and also for the sort of Seeker's Testament, the player's guide, we tried a lot just to, and Jason have contributed to that as well, just to have like, how do we make players feel comfortable when they are new to the table? Like, here you have it. Don't be afraid, but also what are your responsibilities as a player? And I think Bryk said a really good thing, that the game master is just another player. You're doing this together, so trying to more saying like, this is a collective story you are telling. You are a player, but you should lean into the horror, So, but yeah, I think for the game master, it's tricky.
I'd
like to bring in one. Go on.
I'm glad I didn't answer first because everyone already got it. But I do want to emphasize that getting people to run your game, as any publisher, is the battle everyone's playing. So and I think the hard part of it is that a lot of people feel a lot of anxiety about running games, which is what Barry brought up. And what can we do about it? We've introduced the deep waters. We've introduced another way to be a GM with horror starters. We have the GM game aids with labyrinths and secret chambers that adds a lot of flow to improvisation, with lists of names and things you can find in different places and different maps and ideas for GM moves. But other than that, it's kind of not on us. You as a player must encourage others to take up this role as well. And you yourself should probably try sometime.
I do want to add one final thought, if it's okay with folks, just because I am a folklorist by training, and something that is encouraging to me, I mean, at least as far as like GMing, and especially GMing your own ideas. I've interviewed a lot of people on a lot of different topics. I've never met a human being who isn't capable of telling some sort of story, and especially a story about some sort of pain or trauma that resonates with them personally. I mean, that's one thing about Kult, is that, I mean, yes, it does deal with dark subjects, but it deals with those dark. These are subjects that we all experience to one degree or another. We all have these. We all have pains and traumas and stories of difficult experiences that we can utilize, that we don't have to feel as though, you know, we're pulling, we have to create whole cloth. We have our own lives to build upon. And I think that is something that's worth considering in all of this. I do want to get to another audience question, if you folks don't mind.
Real quick,
Yeah,
Steven.
go ahead,
Gabe,
Bryk.
there was a small animal running around in your background. Show us the small animal.
I can't right now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Let
I
me see the
occasionally
small
see a
animal.
cat tree, but this is actually we'll let Gabe and Bryk deal with the animal here. But looks like a cat.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, it's okay, because this question is actually specifically for Perry. We have somebody who wanted to talk to you about your thoughts on the Kult deck, and so this question comes from James Williams, SX8RN. So does Perry feel that the Kult deck is playing with Jungian archetypes in a way that reinforces the creativity of horror TTRPGs? Talk about your feelings on Jung, Perry, if you don't mind.
Well, that is its own large can of worms, because if we don't just talk about Jung, we also need to talk about Joseph Campbell and just the entire premise of archetypes. But that doesn't just depend on the card deck. That also goes into our storytelling. There are archetypes in all of our storytelling, but there are also different archetypes depending on the culture you're talking about. Japanese anime has a very different set of archetypes to be played with, and game that will be coming out on Symphony next year. I am in a game playing the Pale Leaves, Sutra of the Pale Leaves, and so I'm not trying to play a Japanese character. I'm trying to play a black man that's dealing with Japanese culture, and it's the archetypes there. And we have a very funny episode dealing with anime and such in there, and dreams. But again, that was playing with what I do understand from my watching of anime and manga about what archetypes show up there versus the Western one. And that applies even to what we're talking about with Jung, because Jung is European. Jung represents as much about the archetypes that have influenced Euro-Western culture, but how is he doing with the archetypes of West Africa, of Central America? So the archetypes in these decks is still representative of where this came from and the experiences, like Petter had said. What did he experience being in that regional hospital to help create this imagery? Would this still be the same imagery in another part of the world? So we can go and talk about Jung, we can go and talk about Joseph Campbell, but it's still the influence of whatever culture is there and predominant that's going to influence the imagery on the deck, whether you use a classic tarot deck, whether you use an oracle deck, whether you use the Kult deck. I mean, hey, if we were playing Dungeons & Dragons, we'd be talking about the Taroka deck for the Ravenloft game. So, and I think there's another one called Evermore or Everlast that has its own tarot deck. So it's the archetypes that fit the themes of the I think I have a copy of the PDF. I just don't have the game. But that
there's also the deck of many things, which in itself is a 52 card deck.
Right. So it's just, again, what is setting up the archetype that is being used for the stories being told?
Actually, this is a good opportunity for me to crowbar in, well, what may end up being my last topic for this, because we are getting down toward the end of things. So I want everybody to take a turn and really think about this, work through it, because I'm interested in all your ideas on it. And so Perry mentioned the Taroka deck, which Kult is actually the second time I've seen kind of a game in my personal experience have its own kind of tarot deck to go with it. So you had kind of the AD&D Ravenloft game. Eventually, there was a box set or two of them that produced their own deck of cards to go with it. And so this was, and what grabbed me about this, and what I want to ask is, what is it about tarot and horror? Why are these two concepts getting repeatedly connected? I mean, Ravenloft is a horror setting. and it has its own version of kind of the tarot deck. Kult, definitely a horror setting. We have our own tarot deck here. What is it about kind of the notion of a divinatory or fortune telling tool, and maybe, I don't know, the randomization of that even, and horror? Why are those two concepts related?
Well, I'll start with this because there's 2 points to it. One, I think it is still dependent on the culture that it is based on.
Okay.
If this was a much more Norse-based game, I would expect to see the runes being used.
I think you said runes there, but okay, there you are. You're back. Sorry.
The Norse runes. Yeah, the Norse runes. I would expect to see that being used instead of the tarot. If this was in China, I would more than likely expect to see the I Ching being used instead of the tarot. I ran a Kult game where I basically created my own set of bones and their meaning to fit the culture that was there. Western European culture has an effect across the entire world. One of those things that's a big part of it is tarot. So that's why I would say there's a component of why it is so easily accessible to being used worldwide. The second point, going back to I think one of my earlier ones, is the occult has existed long before our gaming. It is, again, something that is in all of our societies. It is everyone sooner or later has some story about divinational tools, whatever they may be, the pendulum, the witch's ladder, dowsing rods. So if it wasn't tarot, it would have been one of those things. What is the most accessible, depending on the culture that is being the dominant force in setting the story?
So it's safe to say, from your perspective, Perry, that divinatory tools, I mean, if I could elaborate or maybe kind of try and play back what you said there, divinatory tools are kind of a regular exposure to the supernatural. And so that is why this dovetails with horror the way it does. Okay.
Because it's an other world, and that's part of that sense of what we struggle with, especially the existential element that goes into cosmic horror, or one of the most often topics in all of our games is grief. How are people dealing with grief and the concept of the afterlife? Again, depending on whatever culture is there.
Okay. Other thoughts, folks, on the connection between tarot and horror, or tarot, the supernatural, and horror? I mean, we can build upon what. No?
Beautiful answer by Perry, though.
Okay.
No, for me, horror is about narratives and humanity, and the tarot and other divinatory tools are an excellent way of representing the different archetypes of how we're responding to those narrative threads. I mean, I've seen it in Kult. I've seen it in Through the Breach, which uses your standard, card deck, but the card deck it has aspects of the tarot within it. Each number, each suit represents different, archetypical things as well. And with Through the Breach, you can just draw some cards, go to their list, and you've got a narrative thread that you can pull on.
Peter, Bryk, any thoughts you want to add? Especially where you're the creator somewhat of this deck, Peter. I'm curious how you see a connection between this deck and horror.
Well, I mean, I think that Perry sort of laid it out very well there. I think that, of course, since it's a divination tool and it's been used in a lot of stories and horror movies where you meet mystic characters, or like in Ravenloft, you have the Vistani that are using the Tarocca deck to use divinations. It is a tool that is in connecting with the supernatural world. So I just think it's as Perry said, that since it's been used so much in Western culture, it becomes sort of like a horror trope almost. But I can say that for the cult deck, I think as they did in the Ravenloft deck, when they have like the mist and the ruler, and they sort of build the world of Ravenloft, or the domains of dread. The same thing goes with the cult deck. I really tried to sort of encompass all of the settings in cult within that deck in the same way, like the sort of the Tree of Life, the Sephiroth and Clifford has a big part of the aspect that it doesn't cover everything because they are constructs of the demiurge. And just to touch on a little bit on Jung, I think that there are themes of Jung, of course, in the archetypes you pick to play in the game as well, and I think it streams to everything. And there are some unpublished material for like playing enlightened characters that is heavily Jung inspired, and he was of course an occultist as well. So I think it's worth remembering that he had a completely different part of his personality with his red book that is like an insane amount of occult work that he created. So you can dig up from there. But yeah, it's a horror trope that works very well, and in divination and in horror games.
Okay. Bryk, did you have anything you wanted to add? I just don't want to skip you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. It is a horror trope. I want to point that out. At this point, it is just the mystic card reader flips the card and it has this imagery on it that gives us this moment of suspense. But to go back to something Perry said, there's a lot of neurodivergent people in gaming. I know, shocker, this is such a huge revelation. And I say this as a neurodivergent person myself, but it is accessible both to us because it is a deck of cards that you can purchase at the store that carries a mystic weight, and also it doesn't contain the same amount of rules lawyering that, for example, did that pendulum swing 75 degrees that way or 80 degrees that way? Did the dowsing rod turn 3 times or 2.5? It is a set 78 pack, usually with tarot, for a standard deck. I don't know how many the Cult Tarot deck has because Daddy didn't get me one. But
wow.
With a standard tarot deck, you have 78 cards, and each one has an image, and all of the minor arcana tell a story, and the major arcana tells the journey of the fool. And every time you pick a card, you're going to be picking up during a moment of one of those stories, and those moments are fairly well laid out. There is plenty of room for interpretation, but most people at a table in the Western Hemisphere are going to have a pretty clear idea of what it means when you pull the 3 of Swords, for example. So it is an accessible tool that you can purchase basically anywhere you purchase books, that has a set of meanings that are malleable enough that you can shape them to any table.
Right. I think maybe we've got time for kind of one quick question. Maybe just indulge me here in a little exercise, if you could, and then we'll pick up. So, Heather's pointed out that the Taroticum is where we kind of get the Cult Tarot, and in the Taroticum, the Cult Tarot is actually it's an artifact. Like your player characters can assemble this deck, pick it up, make use of it, for good or for ill, and ultimately it serves a particular purpose within that scenario. I'm curious now that we have this. So we've got this thing that crosses over. It's sort of it's a meta construct at this point. This card deck.
It's diegetic.
Good word. And so what I'm curious about is what are other potential uses what are other ways that this can be utilized as an artifact in a game? I mean, let's put your we have the brains behind the Cult Divinity Lost here. So
card houses.
Card houses. Okay, that's your how. Explain, please.
Well, so you take one card and you stack it against another card, and then you put the card right here, and then you do another little 10 house, and then you
what
stack the.
Tell me what supernatural thing happens as a result of this.
Oh, you didn't
This
say it had to be
supernatural.
supernatural.
Yeah,
So
but
stay away.
that actually could be a scenario there. That
It could.
people become trapped inside of a card house.
Yep.
And until they figure out
Really.
the pattern of the card house and its structure, they can't escape.
Okay,
I
Bryk, I'm
love
sorry.
that.
Perry stole yours. You got to think of another one.
Oh no, I want to add on to that.
That wasn't. It's not stealing if I let him take it.
I want to share. I want to share. Share.
That's right.
Okay.
But one of my favorite things I've seen in games or worlds is a deck that you have to assemble by finding the cards in different locations and starting with several pieces of the deck, but then having to, as you're going through different places, other cards show up as warnings or as omens, and they can lead you to other cards.
Right.
So that would be my actual answer.
Okay.
If you can't tell, I'm very aligned with Malkuth. So
do we have other suggestions for how to?
I didn't want to run the
How to
Terrorata campaign for my group, but I still stole it this is way back. So the entire campaign was them. I assumed that the Terroraticum had manifested, that each avatar was now somewhere in the city doing its own thing. So literally, I would just flip a card, see if it was reversed or positive, and that was the avatar, and that they had control of a certain section of the city, and they were also playing against each other because they were like magnets. They hated one another because if they got close, they would start to basically lose their substance and return to an actual physical manifestation of the card.
nice.
So I will just add anime series, Card Captors, and Ergo Proxy have just been mentioned as two different in these two moments.
Hell yeah.
We found an anime.
Also, I want to throw a card into Atlas and see what happens.
Well, in Taroticum, you actually go to Aklis to
I know.
take us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. I don't know.
Cards
You
always
wrote
make me
it.
think of Alice in
No, I
Wonderland.
didn't
That's
write
where I
it.
go with it.
I'm innocent.
Okay,
But
so
no, because you have to get the Child of Magic
Yes,
out of
that's
Atlas,
true. Yeah.
which Children of Magic are one of my favorite parts of Cult that doesn't really get discussed a lot. And like creating a Child of Magic, but then using the Cult Tarot to sort of shape its soul, I think would be very interesting. Because you don't do that.
I will
But
put
you
up the Malkuth card for you then.
Thank you. Gabe.
Okay,
Oh,
we do have one final audience question.
No, Gabe was going to say.
Oh, Gabe was going to say something. I
no,
apologize.
I have no idea other than improvising stuff. But I have used cards as bonuses. You keep modifiers. You keep to the roll.
Oh,
So the
cool.
player draws a card, and I don't know. It's 3 of whatever, and they have +3 to add to a roll at another time, and they have to infuse the meaning of the card into why it helps them at the moment.
Okay.
But that was a one-off. I'm not fully sure it works, in all games, but it worked in mine.
We're brainstorming here. There's no bad ideas. And I think mine actually playing off yours, Gabe, if I can offer my own idea, there's no reason you couldn't have the meta experience of having the villain in your game being a GM who is working with the tarot deck to write their own particular role-playing story.
Oh yeah, I've had NPCs reading the character's future, and I was doing the tarot reading at the same time, drawing the cards and pretending it was in game.
Mm-hmm.
So that works as well.
So also throw out the So World by Kellen Gilliam, Die, as another example of just this too.
Okay.
Yeah, you can even use them physically. Just if you're face to face, that is. Because I would just leave one of the like a tarot card on the table, and my players would just obsess over it. Why
Ominous. Thank you. I hate that.
Why
awesome.
why is that out? And what has changed in the meta narrative that card might represent?
I
We
did
call
that.
an
I actually
OCD
did some.
trigger, Jason.
I do something similar during the last campaign. I've been running playtesting with players. I've been leaving out a set of the minor arcana that form the, if you're familiar with it, the Dead Man's Hand.
Mm-hmm.
2 aces, 2 eights, and a 9.
Oof.
Which was supposedly the hand that Wild Bill Hickok was shot while playing.
Mm.
And actually, this good opportunity here to kind of bring in. We'll say our goodbyes momentarily, but we have one more question, and I don't know. This might be trying to just get Peter to open the vault a bit more and see if he'll share any more secrets. But Mr. Cultist has asked, can Peter and the or other
Mr.
panelists
Cultist. Hi, Mr. Cultist.
talk about any plans for future cult books beyond this Kickstarter? Scheduled things, wish lists, things they want to develop.
Well, I mean, we have a lot of material that is waiting to be sort of worked with after this Kickstarter, and of various sorts. And there is at least 2 people here in this room. One is called Jacqueline and one is called Stephen, that is sort of holding one of each book. I suspect that Mr. Fryer might contribute to something dark and dreadful. But the thing is that when we finalize a Kickstarter and we have delivered everything, it's more about finding like what is the state of the various projects. And when we are sort of putting together a Kickstarter, we will try to do it not as rarely as we have done, but a bit more frequently, to sort of find a nice spread where we have like source books, scenarios, things that, and we want to have something weird like, deep waters and, expanding in it a little bit. But there will be both about playing as children in Cult, exploring that part when you are not as trapped in the illusion as others, and when you're growing older, you are sort of getting lost in the sleep in a way, a bit Narnia-esque, but trying to make it not like Stranger Things, but like more modern and real. We will also have a sort of voyage into a different setting with the sort of what Steven is working on, going to
setting better?
Yeah, well, we can say it will be a Wild West setting. I guess we can say that much, Stephen.
You can look at I assemble various kind of set pieces sometimes for my players. You can find them on my playtesters. You can find them on my Blue Sky right now if you want to take a look.
Well, I can't wait to get my little hooks into that.
But there's a lot of interesting things that touches also more about magic and the occult. So, but we will see right now. And there is also this weird book called right now Beyond the Red Gate, that will probably be one of these books that we can't have in retail because it's about the dream world of Yoko Sakai, and it's like perversion and dream magic and weird stuff. But
Gotta love
I
it.
will not promise anything beyond what I've said.
I can tell you something that Petter has promised me, which is we will never be doing a source book specifically devoted to Inferno, because other people have tried and it's not fun.
Don't be bad at Jason. No, I think that Inferno, as I see it, is a book that we won't touch, because I think that I want Inferno to be this mystic realm, where you have the unknown, and just trying to write it down will.
If you try to shape it, it becomes boring.
Yeah,
that's the problem, because it is
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that Metropolis is also super hard. We're working a lot with that continuously, and it's a good book, but it's really hard to sort of the idea of Metropolis, the Eternal City, is so magnificent, and as soon as you sort of try to write it down, it's hard to sort of keep it alive. But we're doing our best.
Oh, yeah, trying to put
I have to. Oh God, sorry, guys.
I was just saying, trying to put mechanics to Purgatory. That was its own hell. So.
Yeah, and like Metropolis is really cool because I think a lot of us have these very different ideas about Metropolis, and it is big enough to contain all of those ideas, which is something I really love about it. I know I have to rewrite at least one of my Metropolis writings, but I'm really excited to get my claws into that book because that book is going to be phenomenal. That book is just going to be an art piece, and you should all make sure you have a copy of that book.
You are such a good salesperson, Bryk. That's good. Yes. I'm still having anxiety over it. It's like, yes, it's good, but it's still not like, it doesn't, my mind is not expanding. It's not like yet, but soon, perhaps. This Christmas, perhaps.
Cultmas?
Perhaps.
Yes. Are we doing Cultmas?
Yes. We are doing Cultmas as well. Sorry.
Yes, and Petter is going to give me my $100 bonus when he inevitably gives me the cult scenario 3 days before Christmas.
Yeah, we should be able to do it sooner. Okay, let's move on.
Well, actually, as we're moving on, we have come to the end of our little journey together.
You're free of me.
It's about time to say goodbye. So I thought it would be fun. I'll pull a card from the tarot deck for each of you, and you can all take a moment and give your sign off and everything.
Well,
so,
are you gonna pull the card and then we sign off?
Yes.
Because that would be cool. Okay, excellent.
Yes. And then we have some special guests who will be coming in after. So everybody stick around as this is the final panel for the con. So let us begin with back at the beginning here. Our guest, Perry Clark, marriage and family therapist, podcaster, AP performer. Your card is Kether. Tell us where we can find you online and any current projects you would want to have us take a look at.
So you can find me online at my practice, which is Untangle and Grow Counseling. You can also find my podcast, which is Untying Knots, Minds and Souls Untethered. You can find me on pretty much just look through the YouTube listings for Symphony Entertainment. I'm on a number of games as my schedule permits. You can also, as I said, catch me on the Old Ways Network. Silver Screens is our current game that is running. I've also been in Eclipse Phase and our upcoming game for Kult, which I believe is Downfall. I'm not going to say which character I'm playing in that one. I've also been over on Apochromatic Unlimited, and I ran the game Reunion of Threads, and you will eventually next year catch some of the work I'm doing for the Year of the Black Goat from Miskatonic Repository. My scenario is called Dead Letters from the Orchard.
Excellent. Jason Fryer.
Oh, God.
Your card is the Three of Eyes.
Oh, yay. Let's see.
Tell us about where we can find you and contemplate the meaning of that, as the Three of Eyes is about faith.
Well,
tell us where we can find you and what you're working on.
You can find me, the only place I think is on Blue Sky at Otter Poet. That's like otter, like the furry thing, and poet, like the writer. Currently working on Heart of Ravensdale for the Legend in the Mist. Recently just finished up some work for the Kickstarter and hopefully for Cultmas next year. And although I kind of briefly said it last night on that panel, next year I'm going to be focusing on my own game company. So that will be my major focus next year. So that's pretty much it.
Well, we
Speaking of
certainly
faith,
wish you.
yeah. Speaking of faith,
Yeah.
that's a good.
Well, we
that's a good way to
certainly
break it.
wish you a lot of good luck and good fortune there.
Thank you.
I just want to add that the text for faith says, the short text is like, faith gives you purpose, but makes you blind. So
Yeah, that's about it.
Jacqueline Bryk. Your card is the 5 of Roses.
What does the 5 of Roses mean, Stephen?
The
I don't have a
5
deck.
Oh,
Predator.
it means
yes,
predator.
yes, the Predator. So tell us where we can find you online and what you're working on.
So I am the English language editor for Kult. You can find me most places on social media as Rufflejax. That's RuffleJax. I'm mostly on Blue Sky, where you can find me posting about a lot of weird shit. I am also writing with, oh my goodness, Ulysses Spele, Onyx Path Publishing, Genesis of Legends. And this February, I have a game coming out through the Plus Ones RPG Zine Club called Bear Witness, which is about being the cult that creates martyrs from the movie, the 2008 movie Martyrs. Also, can I get the short text for the Predator, please?
Yes. Predator represents the hunter, the one that is hungry and preys on the weak.
Have I done? I don't know. I don't think I've been doing that.
Well, it's in the future for you.
Better get that deck to her.
Yeah.
Gabriel Pellizzaro, your
Hello.
card is the 3 of Roses, which is, I will grab that. Apologies for not having it right. Yes, survival. Tell us where we can find you online. And
I am the one who has the deck.
tell us where we can find you online and what you're up to.
For
and
the
what
next little bit.
projects we can find for you.
You'll find me on Kult Discord servers, so the Kult Elysium and the Illusion HorrorCon, and from there you can talk to me, I guess. Otherwise, you can, if you send us a message, I'll probably be the one answering on X, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, maybe even on email. If Petter isn't available to answer, it probably will be me. But otherwise, I'm pretty surviving against Bryk in her pursuit of the deck. So you won't find me anywhere else.
You know me, I need a really good deck.
Petter Nallo, your
Yes.
card is the 7 of Hourglasses.
Oh, I should know this, but I don't know it. Oh,
It is the Labyrinth.
a maze filled with dangers and confusion. Nice.
Tell us where we can find you online and what you're up to.
Well, I'm finalizing the Cult Kickstarter as promised. I don't have that much of an online presence, I would say. I'm pretty bad at it.
So we'll find you at the next convention then.
Yes.
If you want to find Petter, you should be messaging me.
Yeah, that's good. You message Gabe and he messaged me.
If you want to find Petter, what you need to be doing is putting out a slab of raw meat on a moonlit night and like circling it like 3 times, and then you have to say the correct words, which I don't know, but Gabe might know.
Yeah. Well, if you come to northern Sweden and Umeå, you can reach out and we can have a fika or something. That's fine. It's good. No, but I'm full ahead with Cult, looking for the future as well. But just right now, just finalizing and getting the material we have as good as possible.
And my name is Stephen Wall, and my card is the 6 of Moons, which is merging through dreams. You can find me at delapore.media, DELAPORE.media. I have a piece of writing out on Drive-Thru RPG called Somebody Think of the Children. It's a Call of Cthulhu game about your mother. And beyond that, I'm also the host of the Delapore Media podcast, which is about to, well, next month, hopefully we'll release its 5th episode. And I will be talking about suburban horror. And I'll even be reading a couple of passages, a couple of rare pieces from Matthew Bartlett that he's allowed me to pick up and make use of. And so with that, we bring our panel to a close, but we're not quite done yet. So I ask you to hold your applause as we honor and appreciate the real champions, in RPGs, there are no winners, but the real winners of this convention would have to be our convention mods and our support team. So David, Ryan, Crystal, if you all want to come in here and put yourselves on screen, wave goodbye.
Yeah.
Say what you want to say. Introduce yourselves. Take a moment and tell us about you. Tell us where we can find you online and any projects you might be working on, future conventions or otherwise.
Of course. I'm going to start us off. Guys, we did it. That has been the Illusion Horror and Con.
Hear, hear. Bravo.
Thank you. Cheers. Cheers. I don't have any more of my drink left, but thank you so much to everybody, to all of our GMs who have submitted their games, to all of our wonderful players who have played those games. Thank you so much to panelists and panelists for all of our panels. Thank you to our mod team. They are really lifesavers. We love them so much. They are so great. And thank you to everybody who has been watching our panels and watching all of our other APs and other nonsense we do on the Illusion Horror Con. This was our 4th year, Untethered Realities, and it
Bravo.
is being drawn to a close. Do you mind if I get a tarot card from you?
Crystal, your tarot card is the 3 of Eyes.
Yes.
Oh, wait, nope, that was already pulled. Let me dig deep here a little bit. Your tarot card is the 7 of Eyes. I just added 4 more. There, how horrible.
All right.
That is
love some
madness.
eyes. Oh, I feel that after the con. Absolutely.
Crystal, where can we find you online if you want to be found? And are you working on anything you want to share?
Oh, that's a good question. So you can find me on the Illusion Horror Con Discord server. I am the Little Scientist. I'm one of the convention organizers. You can find the stuff that we do on our website, theillusionhorrorcon.events. We don't just do the con, we do other stuff throughout the year. Various collaborations with Helmgast and some of our other sponsors. You can find some of the stuff that I've done on YouTube, the Illusion Horror Con YouTube. Yeah. Come on Discord and give me a shout.
Fantastic. David, Ryan, who wants to be next?
I'll go next. Yeah, I just like to thank everyone, panelists, creators, authors, writers, just every one of you. You bring a knowledge to an online community that is global. And to me, that is very great. And maybe 10, 15 years ago, you couldn't do something like that. So I'm just glad we were able to kind of give fuel to this community or provide a structure where people can come in, play games, talk about horror, and just enjoy the wonderful products that people like you create. And while doing that, we also thank you for your sponsorships that fuel the charity drives that we do. And I think in the 4 years that we've been doing this, I think we've raised close to $3,000 worth of funds for different charities via mental health, child fund, the Trevor Project in the States. And without wonderful sponsorships from companies like you, we would not be able to raise funds and for those efforts.
Do you want a card, Ryan?
What's that?
Do you want a card, Ryan?
Sure.
Astaroth.
Nice.
The devil himself.
Nice.
Yes. And tell us about you and where we can find you and any projects that you might be working on.
Yeah, well, actually, this is the Illusion Horror and Con with David and Crystal. It's pretty much my big project. I don't have much time outside my family life, but just building this and just having a community that started at probably about community of 3, and we are over 1,000 community members now, and we just hit that this year for this con. And most of the time you'll see my face streaming actual plays. And actually, this panel is great because I just started running Teroticum on our all our kind of channels that we run. So I got some great insight and running the prologue of that right now. So looking forward to, I plan on using the tarot card deck to see what happens if the players warp reality, but I don't want to do any spoilers. So I actually want to use the deck in the actual scenario. So we'll see how that works. So yeah, just all our streaming platforms. Other than that, that's where you find me.
Fantastic. David.
Hello. Yeah, thank you again. I cannot just...
Is he frozen?
Oh, no.
Is he frozen? There he is. He's alive.
I swear, every single time the moment I'm speaking up. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Oh,
Yes.
God. Great. So...
Oh no, again.
Oh, no. Give him a moment, folks.
Literally.
No one speaks after Astaroth.
Yep.
Honestly, I blame it all to you, Ryan. You are the evil thing that happened around here. No. Hello, I'm David. I'm the third wheel. I'm the third supporting wheel that creates this Illusion HorrorCon. Yeah, so I just want to say thank you all for being with us over this weekend. It's been a fantastic kind of journey over the last 4 years, and we've just been very excited to see the growth of the community, the people, the sponsorships, and the support from the community within, to see our community grow with moderators that are willing to kind of help us build this idea. And just alone this year, we had over 70 games submitted from 46 GMs. We had over 110 players registering for games over the weekend. We had 10 panels, which are about 20 hours of content that we created. We had 3 actual plays, which are about 16 hours worth of content, some of which is thankfully done by Tom Moore, who ran Curseborn and Mothership. And we had 5 workshops being done as well during the convention. So, I'm just going to say that it was a fantastic weekend of just having you all with us and providing this community gathering that I'm just very proud to be part of. And thank you all for being so supportive in our endeavor of creating this wonderful event. And I think I'm done, right? Based on
David,
that,
your card is Gamaliel.
Your card.
Yes.
What is my card?
Your card is Gamaliel.
Oh,
So
I
tell
don't
us
know
where
what
we
that
can.
means.
So
That explains some things.
That's shocking.
who's got that one off the top of their head?
Yeah, it's perversions and lust and all kind of decadence, of course.
And so funny that the card has 2 people.
Yeah,
And he had to move to talk to us.
There we go.
I'm not going to say it's fitting or that we plan any of this out, but well, there we are. Well, in that case, I'm going to move back to the other original spot.
Well, first tell us where we can find you, if we can find you.
Yes, you can find me on our server on the Illusion HorrorCon. You can find me probably on any other Discord server that is out there for TTRPG games that I subscribe to. And yeah, anywhere on the internet, but most likely you can find me through delusionhorrorcon.events, and you'll find all the links responsible for my shenanigans over there. And yeah, that's where you can find us, me, and all the rest.
Fantastic. Well, it's been a wonderful con. It has been a wonderful panel. And I'll just end by drawing a card for the audience, because I think everybody needs to participate. Audience, your card is the Two of Eyes, imprisonment, because you're trapped in this illusion, and you'll never be free.
With me,
Hey, everybody.
I'm also in here.
Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you guys so much.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Thank you.
Happy end of con.
Yeah.
Amazing.